Hey, welcome to Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf. Today, got tip number 21 for how to grow your business in high inflation times, like we're seeing right now. Inflation is going to be with us now. Even the Biden administration is talking about possible recession on the horizon towards the end of the year. Smart money has been saying that for several months now, along with the Federal Reserve. So that follows along with inflation. The thing is, there are things that you can do, minor shift that takes the complicated and simplifies it for you as a business owner. As an entrepreneur, as the leader of your business, you really need to simplify things. Know what are those few things that you need to have laser focus on. And there's 5 strategies. We've got 21 tips around those that we've been sharing. Here's tip number 21. How well do you know your customer's lifestyle? The reason I ask that is how well does your product, how well do you understand how your product, your service fits into their lifestyle, fits into what they do with their business? Now, maybe if you sell to a consumer, it's very, very personal lifestyle. If you're selling business to business, and I'm talking to you more directly from a business to business standpoint, how does it fit into your customer's lifestyle from the standpoint of what do the people at that company do with what you sell them? How does that fit into their day? What is a day in their shoes? Even better yet, a week or a month in their shoes, revealing about how they use what they buy from you, how that makes their jobs easier, their lives easier, how it makes their products and services better to their customers. And what are you missing that they could use? What are the gaps? And I don't mean that you didn't include something. What, from your perspective, from your team's perspective, with your expertise, what would you be able to say? Oh, you know what? Now that I know that you're doing this, this, and this, we could very easily add, boom, and there's an innovation to include. Sometimes it's simple. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes simple doesn't necessarily equal easy either, does it? No, it doesn't. That always confuses me. I always want simple and easy to go together. Not necessarily the case. It can be simple and still require a fair amount of work. For example, on this day let me make sure I got this date right, 1785, Benjamin Franklin announced his invention of bifocals. Now, I do not have bifocals on, which is why I have these reading specs so that I can see the comments, so I can see the screen, interact with you, because this is 21st century television, right? Live and interactive. Benjamin Franklin introduced the bifocals because it was something from his personal experience, but also in people that he worked with could see that that would be very useful. Not just wearing glasses, but to be able to see the fine print, so to speak. He did famously run a print shop, so came up with an innovation on bifocals. That was a huge general purpose innovation. Perhaps there's something not so earth-shaking on a general population, a consumer basis, a pop culture basis, but that would be equally impactful on your customers. Could be as simple as if you're selling product, how is it packaged when it arrives at their facility? Is it easy for them to move? Is it easy for them to store? Is it in reasonable bundled quantities so that it makes it easy for them to have at a job site? You know, oil cans come in quarts because that was convenient at the time to package way back in the day. Not necessarily convenient today. What would be done differently today? Right? Went from the can to more of a bottle that doesn't leak as much because the cans leave rings. The old style wax paper cans with a tin or steel top and bottom. So think about that. Where can you make innovations? It could be materials, so that something lasts longer when your customer has it. It could be so that it is easier to dispense. Something saw in manufacturing environments in the 1990s was the use of vending machines, like you would have for sandwiches or for sodas. and really more the carousel kind of thing that you'd have, for sandwiches, candy bars, and it'd turn and turn and turn and say, "Oh, okay, here's what I need," and put your money in and click D15, almost like a bingo. It's like D15, bingo, you get what you ordered. So manufacturing companies in their factories for perishable tools, that could be a drill bit, a zip tie, a set of zip ties, something that gets used up by their folks that are manufacturing and assembling their products throughout the production. Made it easy for them to go over to the vending machine and just boom, they could get it. Use their employee ID to swipe it, so they know what's being released where for inventory control, and made it much easier for the people doing the work to get what they needed. Required a change on the part of the suppliers, though. They needed to be able to package in order to have it fit in the right, fit into the machines, the vending machines. Sorry, picturing this at the same time and coming up with the words. And it just gets me so excited thinking about it, because that was such a mind blowing breakthrough, and to see it in action, where I could just walk over instead of going to before that you'd have to walk all the way across the plant, go to a cage in a central location, put in, fill out paperwork to get what they needed, and come back. Instead, what they do is, just because now it's possible to place these vending machines in strategic locations throughout the manufacturing facilities, they could just walk over relatively closer, take their employee ID, swipe it, they got what they needed, they're back at work. Productivity increased. People spent less time walking, because in some facilities, first time that I was in an aircraft assembly facility, just astounded me. If you've ever seen a DC-10, and that's an older plane, and maybe MD-10, MD-11 was more likely what you might have flown, but it was not as big as a 747, but getting there. So imagine a building big enough to have, if you've seen a 747, use that. Imagine a building big enough to have 4 747s under roof. Right? That's an airplane that is 5 stories tall when you account for the tail and why. So to be in a building that size, where you have thousands of people working on 3 different shifts round the clock, and ends up being a lot of walking. People are literally walking miles every day, and a lot of that is to go get supplies that they need. It takes up space putting it in the work area. The more stuff you got in the work area, the more safety hazards you have. So it made it easier for them, and quicker and more productive. Everybody was happy being able to walk over to the vending machine, pull the tool they needed to use, because drill bit got dull, for example. Other pieces like that. So they would go back to the job site. How can you make changes like that will benefit your supplier? And do you know what your customer is? I'm sorry, not your supplier, but what your customer is doing well enough, in enough detail? Have you spent enough time in their shoes to get insight into things like that? Because it took a company, an entrepreneur, to go, you know what, we can use vending machines for this instead of having parts distributed this way. One of the studies that I helped to lead on an aircraft manufacturing build showed that just on how we dealt with managing the inventory and releasing parts to the production areas, we could save as much as, get this, $1 billion across a 15-year production life cycle for an aircraft. And think about this. For example, you have 900,000 rivets. There's one particular cargo plane that the U.S. Air Force has 900,000 rivets in it. I know that because it was involved in the assembly and some of the design work on it. Just think about that. That's just the rivets that holds the stuff together. There's a whole bunch more parts than that. So there's a lot of people, a lot of parts that go in, that are involved in building the aircraft. How much time do you spend with your customers to know what is the real impact? Let's talk software, right? There's not a lot of inventory involved with software, but how do your customers use the software that you sell them? If you're a sales professional, you know a lot about the software, how it's intended to be used, how your customer can get the benefit from it. What are they doing that helps or blocks them from getting that benefit? What minor or major modifications can be made that would make it easier for them to get the job done. Maybe it's integrating with legacy software systems more easily. Maybe it is innovating in the services that you provide and bundling them in and how those are bundled in for customizing and creating the connections that are needed to work with legacy software systems that they need to connect your software to. That's also an opportunity for providing more value, which legitimately increases the price, right? So you can increase your price per sale, more value to the customer, but also making the customer experience better long term after the sale. And what does that mean? It means you're more likely to have a loyal customer that will tell other people, that will refer, and that will continue to buy in the future as they grow, as their needs change. So this works for product and service. Think about that. How can you spend time like one of the major car manufacturers? I want to say it was Toyota. I don't have a citation for this that they had sent. And we touched on this in a different episode. They had sent engineers to live with their customers, the families that were buying their cars, and I believe it was minivans at the time in the 1990s, to see how are they using it, to experience what day-to-day life was like, which then resulted in them being able to design features in that made their vehicles much more sought after because it fit into the lifestyle much better. And it could be, for an automobile, it could be as simple as where do you have spots to tie down bungee cords or nets to keep sports equipment for the kids from rolling around all over the back, or from keeping groceries from sliding around, or so that you can mix stuff. You can keep the baseball equipment over here and you can keep the groceries or the dinner that was picked up on the way home, tied down over here. And you have the tie spots, the little hooks and T-bars that you'll see on some of the cars and SUVs, so that you can tie stuff down and keep it where it's supposed to be. So it's not sliding all over the place. So you're not spilling. Oh, we just had some of our favorite Loco Moco Hawaiian, right? It's gravy with over easy egg and Kahlua pork and rice. Oh, it's delicious. But if that's sloshing around all over the place, if that's sliding in the trunk, you don't want it sliding on the floor in the passenger compartment, because if there's gravy in it. And if it's sliding around, you're going to be sloshing gravy around inside the bag that it's in, which eventually means it's getting around inside the car. You don't want that. Just 3 quick examples of things that were insights gained from getting to know the customer better. So tip number 21, live in your customer's shoes so that you can innovate solutions that are high value to them and simple and relatively easy and expensive for you to create and deliver to them. It's high inflation environment. There's things you need to adjust. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about the 5 strategies. Whoops, you can see that all 5 strategies that go in that with that to be able to scale your business, to grow your business despite high inflation. We'll be doing that April 25th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. There's a link in the notes for this, in the comments for this. And also, here's the banner. This is where, go to growingduringhighinflation.com to register for that. You do need to register as a complimentary session. We are limiting it to the first 30 people because this is A, the first time that we've done this, and B, we want to have time for Q&A and really be able to make it a discussion. This is not a lecture. We're going to talk about the 5 strategies you need to be implementing now to stay ahead of high inflation and also to be prepared for the coming recession and to grow your business while your competitors are stumbling. Thanks for being part of Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf, and I look forward to seeing you on the trail.